Greetings, this is Planetary Development Series, and today's topic will be parasites. A quick definition of the whole concept. So, a parasite is a form of relationship that only knows how to take. Or in other words, it only takes. It does not give because it does not understand why it should give. It does not possess sufficient intelligence in order for it to understand the benefits of cooperation. Now, parasitic behavior is a negative quality. It is obviously taking from others without a care about their well-being, which means it is it's inevitably negative to the partner of a relationship, right? Now, there are three types of, relationships, or souls, how would I put this? Logic of human mind? Doesn't matter. The point is, there are three types, right? There's a take type, then there is a give type, and then there is a middle type, which is exchange type or balance type, right? Take is, like I said, parasitic. It only takes, it does not give. Give only gives, does not take, or does not keep, or does not value its time, right? Naturally, these behaviors have their own negatives. In heaven, this behavior is obviously natural, since you give without fear of parasites, because there are no parasites in heaven. Due to intellectual development, reaching a certain point where you understand that it is simply not beneficial being a monster, right? Now, a middle type is the one that has understanding of both of these qualities, right? Ups and downs of when you should give, when you should not give, right? Also known as cooperation, right? Naturally, in the real world, it's always a scale. Whether you are more of a giving person or more of a parasite or a taking person, right? Critical points where you no longer give and only take are what we call parasites, right? But it really does not matter how far you're on the parasitic scale, right? All that matters is that if you are taking more than you are giving, that means you're inflicting harm onto others. That's just, basic human common sense. Now, obviously, parasites are a repulsive creature because it naturally takes from others, so others tend to avoid them, right? Whenever people can see the monster, they do not interact with it naturally, right? On the other hand, a giving person is always attractive, no matter, especially to the parasites, right? But basically, a giving person is just, nice to be around, since it does not it doesn't matter. you get why a giving person is nice, right? Because it gives you benefits. That's basic common sense. In this world, if you are this person, right, or a positive person, you are likely to be exploited, because this planet is naturally a planet of parasites, right? It is what you call survival of the fittest, and in such worlds where humanity does not exist yet, there are you can't afford to be a nice giving person, right? That's just basic common sense. In a world where everyone is trying to exploit you, if you choose to be like this, you are a fool. and you will be destroyed by the monsters that are all around you, right? So you have to either, the best you can do is this, or you can be this with chosen ones of your choosing, right? But openly you can't wholly be a good person. Now, right, basic logic, a negative, a positive. What else? Okay, that should be sufficient. Now, let's do a quick simulation of why your world is fully corrupted. Or in other words, you are fully taken over by parasites. Now, let's say we make a hierarchy, right? Is that how it's pronounced? Basically, a power structure, right? You can call it capitalism or whatever you want to call it, but we can take a medieval example, right, with lords and fiefs and all those stuff, right? So let's say village level, town level, city. Is it bigger? I have no idea. It doesn't matter. The point is, naturally, it's the value of resource exertion capabilities, right, are different. Simply, the higher you go, the more powerful it becomes, right? Naturally. So let's say we introduce. Let's say every one of these are a 50-50 ruler, right? Okay. So it means somewhat this, right? In other words, they are noblemen, right? Beings that make their living by serving those that they care for. Like, for example, lords and ladies, right? They care for the well-being of their subjects by solving problems, right? And eliminating inefficiencies, providing new profits, etc., right? They figure out ways to benefit the people, so to speak, right? Naturally, let's say they take 50% of the profit for themselves, and 50% is left for the users, right? It's sharing, what do you call it? Sharing, cooperative logic, right? Or a relationship. Now, let's say we introduce a parasite into the system. A parasite does not give to the people, remember? It only takes. Therefore, it can exert all of the system's value. On top of that, a parasite is focused on abuse and theft and subjugation, war, right? In general, right? It's a parasite cannot create itself. That's why it takes from others. It needs to take to survive. In a realistic environment, right? Without not just a theory, right? When you are a parasite and you rule your subjects with complete exploitation, like capitalism does, right? It is an unsustainable system. You naturally cannot drain the system constantly. You need to give back as well. Otherwise, crime becomes reality. Mental health deteriorates. Revolts, you name it. I can't do this from the top of my head, but basically all the problems you currently have is due to mismanagement of the rulers of your world. So, going back to an example, right? When you are a parasite, naturally you can utilize more resources, right? On top of that, like I said, you are specialized for war or for destroying others, right? Subjugate or whatever. While a nobleman, it is not specialized in war. It is specialized in assistance, right? It does not take. It thinks how to give. So naturally the opposite. when you put a parasite next to a positive person always dies, because a parasite will exploit him endlessly. The only way for a positive person to survive is to understand how to recognize a monster, or, having sufficient logic for vision. Now, if this parasite wants to survive in the system, it needs more resources, because it cannot maintain this standard of exploitation, right? So what it does is attack others around him, subjugate them, since this can exert 10 times the force, while this one can only exert at best 5, right? Sure, they can come together, and if everyone suddenly unites, right, which is highly unlikely, but even if that happens, remember that a parasite is focused on your destruction or other creatures' subjugation. It does not have human values, so it does not care whether it hurts you, while a nobleman is constantly trying not to. Understandable, right? So, naturally, a nobleman stands no chance against a parasite, because, all of the things I mentioned. So, it's taken over, right? Now, together, now it has 20 of the resources, because it now does the same, rules the same, by the same laws, right? Now it has enough power to take this one over, right? Now all it takes for these monsters to completely take over your entire system that we have symbolized here is to take one of these, which is easily done. See how quickly it can get out of hand. And now, once you have more than 50% of the system, bye-bye, noblemen. My apologies. So, as you can see, the only way parasitic takeover is inevitable. The only way for you to prevent this, right, is to unite against the monsters, right? If you unite, then you have 15% force, right? And a parasite is alone always. A parasite is a creature that does not make friends. That's why it takes from others, because, it is strong single-handedly, right? But unity is always stronger. The strongest thing a human being can do is work together. It is the best tool at your disposal. So naturally, if you can unite, you can easily control the parasitic infections. Parasites are quite weak because they never work together. They cannot work together because they are not trustworthy. That's just the nature of their logic, I suppose, or character, whatever you want to call it, right? Idea is this. But in order for you to unite in the first place, right, you need to understand how, or have sufficient intelligence to recognize a monster or a parasite. Since parasites are wearing human machinery, right, they have the same minds as you do, which means they are quite tricky to deal with. They will always find a way to destroy you. If you want to see them, you have to learn how to recognize parasitic behavior. And in order for you to do that, the first thing is to learn how to count, right? The basic thing that your world seems to not understand. But I've already given you energy credits, so parasitic behavior should be curbed quite a bit now. Now, an elimination of parasites back in the day, right, when in medieval times, was extremely difficult, because we did not have internet, right? Obviously, information spread was very difficult, and we couldn't nowadays it's as well. I mean, you would be surprised how isolated you can be. Even though an internet seems like a free place, you have to remember that it's owned by the rich, as the same way everything is. Sure, you can get into some places, but internet is heavily censored, so, you know. Right. Nowadays, obviously, it's still easier to access and obtain information, right? And educate yourself to prevent others from exploiting you. So, whenever you learn how to see monsters, right, you will have 3 options of solving the problem of this parasitic drain, so to speak. You will have an option to eliminate, right? Elimination obviously is a way of violence. It is most rapid solution, I suppose, and it's more of an emergency solution. But in reality, it solves nothing. It's just a band-aid. Same as with isolation. You can always step away from the monsters and leave them to, live in their own systems. You can figure out a way to do that very easily. Like, for example, your governments are currently toxic to you. Obviously, they have sold you out a long time ago. They didn't even sell you out. They never were working for you anyways. They are the tools of the rich, obviously. Right? So, naturally, if you don't like that, you can step away from their government style. You can simply support other governments, and they will have no choice but to either submit or, die alone. The best solution is to analyze the error. Once you analyze, you know where it comes from, and you can cure the source of it. Like, for example, I had 2 examples prepared, but I don't know if I can do this. A bit unstable since the world is breaking around me. Okay. You will have to live without examples, I suppose. Basically, okay, I'll give you a 1. For example, you are exploited at your work environment, right? Naturally, if you don't see the whole picture, you don't know where it is. However, as you analyze your structure of your work environment, you can see the problem clearly. Since you usually, as a simple worker, you can't do that because you don't have access to the financial records, you don't have understanding of all of the working parts and all that, right? However, when it comes to global things, right, like your exploitative, corrupt financial system, right, or literally enslavement system known as capitalism and financial, what is that, inflation? Yeah, inflation, whatever you call it. It's not the real thing, but whatever. The point is, once you start following the numbers, right, you see them not adding up eventually. However, naturally, parasites are doing all they can to distract you, brainwash you, and all in all just confuse you so that you do not understand that you are slaves. Because once you do understand it, you will understand that the rich are monsters beyond measure. And once that happens, well, they're, like I said, only few, right? And they don't work together well. So they are pretty quickly going down, right? Naturally. So, best solution to every problem is analysis. But your world does not possess any research departments of any kind because, no one cares. The rich do not care about your well-being. All they care about is making money or robbing you of your life, in other words, right? They do not produce wealth with producing actual profitable things, but instead they produce profit by stealing from you better. Your world is such a hellhole that I cannot stress enough how frustrating it is to be living in this place. I want a world where everyone is happy. I want a world where people don't have to work for nothing. I want a world where people don't have to work for food or housing or clothing. I can build machines that do that. Basically, automation is the key, right? But your capitalism is preventing you from automating everything and keeping you in these meaningless pits of dig a hole and fill it back in, right? It is ridiculous. If you only knew how to count and work together, right, you would be way better off. Feeding, housing, and clothing everyone for free is nothing. It is so simple and cheap that you have no idea. Of course, I don't have idea either, because we don't know how to count in this world. We do not have a government that can provide us with financial map. We do not have a government that can give us a logic map, or in other words, education system proper, right? In our education system, you're just brainwashed, on purpose, so that you are broken and not understanding, or not unthinking machine that is obedient and all the other stuff of dogs. I will give you a specialized video for education. I will explain to you how proper education looks like, because whatever you call education is brainwashing. It's definitely not education. Memorization is not education. It's a part of it, but not education. In reality, education is pure ecstasy. You shouldn't be miserable while you learn. It is ridiculous. Everything in your world is upside down. I hate this place, man. Yeah, I am extrapolating way too far. Fine. I suppose you should have a better understanding of how your system works. In order for your noblemen to exist, which they do not anymore because they have been all killed by the monsters, right? Since you cannot survive in a system which is run by monsters, right? You cannot be even this positive. You can barely be even this positive. If you want to live in your capitalist environment, you have to kill others in order to feed yourself. That's how they dictate reality. The monsters at the top say that who does not work does not eat. And that's ridiculous when you can build machines, because machines work for 1,000 of me. And it's whatever. Just highly frustrating, man. Somehow, we build the factories, we run the factories, we optimize, we design the factories, but somehow one asshole at the top gets 100% of the profit. Pretty strange. I'm probably repeating myself at this point. Whatever. Yeah. I probably haven't said enough, but you can always ask me questions if I am still alive when you're watching these videos. So, right. I guess see you in the next one. Bye.